What's up, y'all? Share this video. Share this video, y'all. Share this video, y'all. Make sure you follow me on. Make sure you follow me on Spotify. Make sure you follow me on Spotify. The podcast was sold. TikTok, the podcast was sold. YouTube, the podcast was sold. Instagram, the podcast was sold. Share this video. Mars is the first one in here. As you know, Judge Subramanian has asked the prosecution and asked the defense to find precedent cases with a similar charge to Puff. I found the case. I did a video on this case yesterday.
I told you I was going to catch you, bro.
What's up, man?
Peace, God.
What's that?
I'm going to catch you.
All right. Puffy is charged with 2 counts. Lori F, what's up? Diz, what's up? I see you. 18 USC 2421 subsection A. The guideline range that Judge Subramanian put in his letter was 2G1.1. When you look that guideline range up, it comes with a base offense level of 14. I found the precedent case. How you doing?
Hi, you have a moment? I think you're in the middle.
What's going on?
So Jay Electronica just wanted me to stop and talk to you really quick.
Janet who?
Jay Electronica, he's
Jay Electronica?
Yes.
Where is he?
He's gonna come back around. He's trying to park
Oh, that
up.
was him right there in
Yes.
the truck? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
But he wants his information. He said that Allah may bless you and thanks for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And he appreciates you very, very much.
Let me give you my number.
Yes, please. I'm Shamil.
What's up, Shamil?
Shamil.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
I'm
meet
gonna put my number in there.
He definitely wants to contact you directly.
Okay.
He just wants to say thank you very much for all that you're doing.
Okay. So he's got an 860 number.
That's me.
That's you. Okay.
But
that's
this
my
is
number.
you.
Give him that number.
You got it.
Okay.
And,
is he gonna park and come around?
He's gonna try. He's gonna meet me back up here. I'll be here.
Okay.
But he said he definitely wants to reach out to you.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You got it.
All right. So Puffy, the base offense level is 14, which is 15 to 21 months. Now, Judge Subramanian, this video is for you. Send this video to Judge Subramanian. Park it right here, man. Double park it.
I have to take care of the dog. I got the dog with me.
Double
I
park it.
got
Double.
I have to take care. I got to take care. I'm gonna make sure.
I gave her my number.
I got my 2 dogs with me. I spun right here specifically.
Thank you, man.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.
We got your details, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you. As soon as I send, I'm gonna hit you.
Okay, Jay. Thank you, man. Peace. All right. Where was I? The guideline range is 15 to 21 months. Now, Judge Subramanian the prosecution is going to well, number one, Judge Subramanian, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. You need to go below 15 months to 21 months. And if you stay in that guideline range, you need to go to the low end of the guideline range and give Puff 15 months. If you stay within the guideline range. Now, the argument that, first of all, there's two charges of 24, 21, 18 USC. Cassie has one, Jane Doe has one. It very well may be that Cassie's charge has the 5-year statute of limitation has expired on that charge. That charge may need to be thrown out. Okay? But if you don't throw it out, if you keep the two charges, Cassie's charge and Jane Doe's charge, Judge Subramanian, it would be mind-baffling if you decided to run both of those charges consecutive. I believe 99.9% that you are going to run both of those charges concurrent and make it one charge. Everybody get this video a thumbs up. You're going to run both those charges together. Now, the prosecution, the assistant U.S. attorneys in the Southern District of New York are going to attempt to enhance Puffy 4 points for coercion. Okay? That no longer can be the case, Judge Subramanian, because right now you have one of the escorts, I forget his name, Howard, Dwight Howard, Damon Howard. What's that dude's name that's going around right now saying that he was having intercourse with Cassie for 7 to 8 years? He was one of the escorts. Last name is Howard. What's his name? Robinette Clark. What's up? Dave Howard. Dave, right? Dave Howard. Dave Howard, Judge Subramanian, is doing interviews on the internet, on social media, and mainstream media that Cassie was a willing participant, that he had a relationship with her for over 3 years, ENY 318, and that it was consensual, that there was no coercion, there was no force. So there should be no reason to enhance Puff 4 levels for coercion. That theory is dead. Also on Vlad TV, you have Don the Jeweler and you have this other dude named Rico establishing the same thing with Jane Doe. Jane Doe also had relations with a dude named Paul, a dude named Cabral, a dude named Antoine, who all state that she was a willing participant, that there was no force, there was no coercion. So there cannot be any type of enhancement for coercion when it comes to sentencing for Puff. And make sure you remind the probation officer who is doing the PSI of the facts of this case. Also, on the day, 2 Fridays ago, when the verdict came down, or that might have been last Friday, when you came back, Judge Romania, and you changed your mind Because when Mark Agnifilo stood up after Puffy was acquitted of RICO, when Mark Agnifilo stood up when Puffy was acquitted of SEX trafficking, Mark Agnifilo stood up and he asked you, he requested that Puffy be released that day, that he be granted bail, that you will allow him to post bail. He was going to post $1 million bail. 3 of his family members were going to sign. His mother and 2 or 3 other of his family members were going to sign the bond for $1 million. He was going to abide by all of the conditions that you set. Mark Agnifilo, Judge Romanian, you heard it. You was there. I heard it. I was there. Everybody in the courtroom heard it. Mark Agnifilo told you that he was acquitted by a jury of his peers. The Southern District of New York didn't acquit him. The assistant U.S. attorneys didn't acquit him, all 6 of them. None of Puffy's legal team acquitted him. I didn't acquit him. None of these people out here acquitted him. Nobody in the world acquitted him but the 12 New Yorkers, the 12 jurors acquitted him. And Mark Agnifilo told you that the jury gave him his life back. That the 2 most serious charges that carried the most carried the biggest punishment, life in prison, he was acquitted of. And that for that reason, he should be allowed to reconnect with his family. And Mark pointed to his family, to his daughters, to his 4-year-old daughter, his other twin daughters, his sons. And after Mark Agnifilo got finished speaking, Judge Romanian, you looked at Puffy and you said out your mouth, Mr. Combs, I'm sure you do not want to go back to MDC Brooklyn. And Puffy shook his head and he said, no, I don't. I don't know if he said, no, I don't, but he shook his head and said, and you were going to let him go home. That was the feeling that I got, and I've talked to other people that were in the 26th floor, that was in the 24B overflow, and that was in the 24A overflow, and they all got the same impression that you were going to let Puffy go home that day. Then you asked the prosecution to stand up if they had anything to say about what Mark Agnifilo said. Maureen Comey stood up and she said Puffy should not be released. He was convicted of 2 very serious crimes that carry a 20-year prison sentence, and that he was a flight risk and all of that, even after Mark Agnifilo told you that he had his passports, that he would only be restricted to New York, LA, and Miami. Maureen Comey got up and she said, no, and she made the case why Puffy should remain in custody. You then said, after hearing her out, this was about 11:15. You then said, well, let's take a break. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock. I need a letter from you, and I need a letter from you detailing, Agnifilo, why you think Puffy should be released on bail, and Ms. Comey, you detailing why you think Puffy should be denied bail. And we will reconvene at 1 o'clock. 5 minutes to 1, I went back in the courtroom. Everybody was there. Everybody was waiting for you. You didn't show up at 1 o'clock. We waiting at 2 o'clock. The marshals came in and said, nothing is happening until 5 o'clock. Everybody clear the courtroom. We all came out. 5 o'clock came around and you came out, and from what I understand, that you got right to the point that Puffy was denied bail, that Mark Agnifilo himself, out of his own words, had admitted to domestic violence, and that for that reason, Puffy was going to be, you were going to deny him bail. And you did that. And Puffy was remanded back to MDC Brooklyn. But you also stated, Judge Subramanian, that come sentencing, the prosecution can't use the violence argument no more. They got it off right then to deny the bail, but they cannot use it when it comes to sentencing. I was disappointed in you, Judge Subramanian, because that's the second time on Ju Jones sidebar. That's the second time, Judge Subramanian, you done said one thing out your mouth at one point, then you go in the back. I don't know who you talk to, who called you, who you call. I don't know what happened, but then you come back out, you say a whole different thing, diametrically opposed to what you said the first time, as if somebody is bullying you. And Judge Subramanian, let me tell you something. You younger than me. I've been living longer than you. I got more experience in life than you. If you're gonna be a man, you got to be a man all times, and to be a man amongst men. And you don't let nobody run you, because you can't gain respect, Judge Subramanian. I don't care how much money you make. I don't know how much district judges make, permanent lifetime employment, $200,000-300,000 a year, but that don't mean nothing if you ain't got no self-respect and you letting people bully you behind closed doors and treat you like a little boy and take away your manhood. You a judge, and you got to live. You make your decisions, you make your choices, and you live and die with that. Don't let nobody knock you off your square. Me personally, I don't think you had enough experience to handle this kind of case, and it seems like it bore itself out with the way that you switched up on Puff 2 times with that juror number 6 and then at this sentencing thing. You can't do that. If you're gonna be a judge, then be a judge. And for this reason, this is why you need to do a downward departure and go below the guideline range of 15 to 21 months. You shouldn't allow any enhancements. MDC Brooklyn. Vicky Slaughter, yes he did. Y'all got me? Sorry about that, y'all. So MDC Brooklyn. Conditions at the Conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn have been widely criticized as poor and inhumane. The facility has been described as a tinderbox of violence, experiencing numerous stabbings and assaults, including homicides. An inmate was fatally stabbed in June, and another inmate died after a brawl a month later. There have also been at least 4 deaths by taking their own lives in the past 3 years. Neglect and lack of care. Detainees report grotesque food and inadequate medical attention, including delays in treating serious conditions and lack of access to necessary medications. The National Association of Women Judges investigated the unconscionable conditions for female detainees, including insufficient access to medical care and no outdoor exercise. Staffing shortages and corruption. Understaffing is a significant issue, leading to delays in responding to emergencies and contributing to a chaotic environment. There are also reports of correctional officers accepting bribes and facilitating the smuggling of contraband such as narcotics and cell phones into the facility. So, a lot of judges won't even sentence people to MDC Brooklyn, will rather sentence them to home confinement or probation rather than send them to MCD Brooklyn because of the inhumane conditions that's going on over there. For this reason, you should do a downward departure beneath the guideline range. All of the witnesses that the prosecution called, starting with Dawn Richard, who met with federal prosecutors 8 times. Robinette, thank you for that super chat. 8 times. Committed perjury 13 times on the stand. Dawn Richard lied 13 times on the stand. For that reason, you should do a downward departure below the guideline range. Dr. Dawn Hughes met with federal prosecutors 8 times. One time after the defense gave their opening argument, and another time after Cassie got finished testifying on the stand. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Mia met with federal prosecutors 31 times. When asked under cross-examination by Brian Steele, why did you meet with the government so many times? She said, so that we can understand my story. She also perjured herself on the stand. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Breonna Boglin got on the stand in front of your face and committed perjury about the 17th floor balcony incident. That never happened. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Jane Doe, testifying under an anonymous name, met with the federal prosecutors 24 times. Committed perjury on the stand under cross-examination by Tenny Garagos. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Who else? Capricorn Clark met with federal prosecutors 8 times, committed perjury on the stand. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Before Puffy even made it to trial, Cassie, the star witness, perjured herself on the stand. Judge Subramanian, you heard it. She said in her civil suit that there was a balcony, 17th floor balcony incident at a hotel suite. Brianna Bogerlin said it was at her apartment. Cassie was here in New York with Puff. For that reason, you need to go do a downward departure below the guideline range. Here's a letter from Alexandra Shapiro to you, dated June 15th, 2025. The government has devoted enormous resources to this case. The undersigned are not aware of any other recent case involving more than 5 assistant U.S. attorneys. There has never been a case in the Southern District of New York where there was more than 5 prosecutors. Puffy had 6, and here we have 6 at trial, along with 2 filter team assistant U.S. attorneys, 8 prosecutors, and multiple actively involved supervisors. Additionally, the Department of Homeland Security assigned multiple agents to the case, and numerous other agents have assisted at various points, including hundreds of heavily armed agents in combat gear who executed military-style raids complete with armored vehicles on Mr. Combs' Los Angeles and Miami homes in March of 2024. And the government also apparently retained a highly paid jury consultant in this case, which is exceedingly rare for the government to do. A consultant who may well be advising the prosecutors in connection with this instant motion. For this reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Alexander Shapiro, page 9 of 14. The Southern District of New York used misrepresentation and material omissions in its warrant applications. Although the court denied our Franks motion, the defense has documented how the Southern District of New York obtained the March 2024 warrants to search Mr. Combs' homes, his person, and all of his electronic devices using materially misleading applications. You gotta do it downward departure. You gotta do it downward departure. The Southern District of New York omitted extensive evidence undercutting the credibility of Cassie Ventura and other witnesses the warrant applications relied on to establish probable cause. Puffy's lawyers filed for a Franks hearing, and at a Franks hearing, what you do is you challenge the warrants, the applications for the warrants for false information, lies, and perjury, and whether those warrant applications give you probable cause. Judge Subramanian, you denied that. And you knew Cassie was unreliable, and the other witnesses, Brianna Bogerlin was unreliable, Mia was unreliable, Capricorn Clark was unreliable, Kid Cudi lied, Jane Doe lied. For that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. For instance, when obtaining the warrants, the government completely disregarded extensive evidence then in its possession showing Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura's relationship was, though at times toxic, it was consensual and loving. The applications also relied on several other witnesses the prosecutors later admitted were not credible. The assistant U.S. attorneys, they knew Breonna's testimony was a lie. They knew that Puffy was in New York and that whole balcony incident was a lie. And they put that girl on the stand anyway, and y'all knew it. These witnesses were part of a feeding frenzy of grifters who were trying to extract money from Combs after the Ventura lawsuit became public. Yet, the prosecutors failed to disclose the financial motives of these witnesses and concealed exculpatory evidence that the government had in its possession when it sought those warrants. For that reason, you need to go below the guideline range. You need to go below the guideline range. Investigators used excessive force. Investigators used excessive force and created a media circus during the raids of Puffy's homes. The search warrants were executed in a manner calculated to garner press attention, sensationalize the case, falsely portray Puffy as dangerous, and taint any future jury pool. Federal agents leaked the government's plans to the press in advance to maximize media coverage and put on a show. For that reason, Judge Subramanian, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. The agents used excessive force against Mr. Combs' children who were in his home doing nothing wrong. One agent held a semi-automatic rifle to the head of Christian Combs, even though he was visibly complying with the agent's demands. Another had a semi-automatic rifle with a laser sight trained and the orange dot visible on the middle of the chest of Justin Combs, who was also complying with the agent's instructions. Judge Subramanian, for this reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Puffy beat this case. The agents then handcuffed them and paraded them in front of news cameras and a TV helicopter invited by the Department of Homeland Security, who were waiting to get salacious footage of this staged perp walk of two innocent young men. Investigators leaked a steady drumbeat of false and prejudicial information to the press until the court issued a broad gag order opposed by the prosecution. Throughout most of 2024, Department of Homeland Security agents repeatedly leaked information about the investigation to the media, including extensive amounts of highly prejudicial and false information about minors, about sex dungeons, about cameras in the bedroom, and a host of other prejudicial information that has caused online conspiracy theories to multiply. Judge Subramanian, for this reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. As the court is aware, the prosecutors repeatedly denied that these leaks emanated from its case team by describing that team in an artificially limited way, and even opposed a request for a gag order that would prohibit all Department of Homeland Security agents, not just the limited few Southern District of New York claimed were on the case team, from leaking sensitive information about the case. While this litigation was ongoing, the leaks continued unabated. It was only after the court issued the broader gag order that defense sought that the leaks finally ceased, long after the jury pool had been deeply tainted. Since then, the government has repeatedly invoked the gag order and Local Rule 23.1 to prevent the defense, to prevent Puffy's lawyers, which has a right to try to combat the unfair tsunami of non-stop negative coverage from any media engagement. At the same time, the government failed to oppose in any way the numerous apparent violations of that rule by alleged victims and their counsel. So Judge Subramanian, you let the prosecution leak all kind of information and violate the gag order and Local Rule 23.1, but you held Puffy and his lawyers to that standard, but you turned the blind eye to the prosecution. Judge Subramanian, for that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. What's up, man?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
That's
I've like watched your shit since COVID.
Thank you, man.
You inspired me a lot when I'm not from here, I'm from San Diego.
Okay.
But I moved here like 2 years ago.
All right.
And then you got me into calisthenics and all that. And a lot of your videos like back then, the ones you used to upload with the calisthenics, bro, all that shit
What's
was
your
really
name?
good. Gabriel.
Gabriel. Come and say what's up to the people, Gabriel. Check my man out, y'all.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah,
Gabriel.
from San Diego?
Yeah, I'm from San Diego.
Yo,
I live here now.
shout out to all the surfers in San Diego, man. Shout out to the West Coast. Gabriel, I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.
You want to promote your Instagram or YouTube?
Nah, I don't use none of that.
You good?
Nah,
All right, man. All
It was
right.
really cool meeting you.
All right, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Good thing.
All right, peace. Judge Subramanian, more violations by the Southern District of New York. Judge Subramanian, this is why you need to sentence Puff. You need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. Prosecutors surveilled Puffy in jail and invaded the defense camp. Puffy's lawyers set up a defense camp where Puffy, Agnifilo, Shapiro, Tenney, Westmoreland, Donaldson, Steele, Esteveo, Driscoll will all get together, Jonathan Bott, and brainstorm and prepare for the case. The prosecutors next took advantage of Mr. Combs' incarceration to spy on him and invade the defense camp, violating his attorney-client privilege and his First Amendment rights. Judge Subramanian, for that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. As the court is aware, shortly after Mr. Combs was detained, the Bureau of Prisons investigator began monitoring Puffy's communications, including calls with his attorneys, and sharing information with the prosecutors. Judge Subramanian, for that reason, you need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. During an allegedly unrelated October 2024 general sweep of MDC Brooklyn, meaning a shakedown. All the COs in MDC Brooklyn, they did a shakedown. When they do a shakedown, everybody got to move. They kick you out of the unit, and a whole team of COs come in and they shake the cell down. They shake the unit down. They shake the zone down. They shake the prison down. And they look for contraband. They look for phones, they look for knives, extra blankets, extra pillows, food, whatever. Weapons, drugs, during an allegedly unrelated October 2024 general sweep of MDC Brooklyn for contraband and evidence of corruption, the agents completed their search of certain parts of that facility and asked the Southern District of New York whether or not they should continue their efforts and search Puffy's unit. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. After they got finished shaking down the whole building, the COs got on the phone with the Southern District of New York and said, yo, do you want us to search Puff's joint exclusively? And a Southern District of New York supervisor told them to search Puffy's unit because the government's interest in Mr. Combs specifically and law enforcement agents proceeded to do so. During the ensuing search, the investigator who had been working with the prosecutors confirmed that there was no contraband among Puffy's personal effects, but nonetheless rifled through his possessions and photographed, took pictures with the cell phone of Puffy's notes reflecting conversations he had with his attorneys and ideas for a defense strategy. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. MDC Brooklyn. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. The investigator then told a member of the case team about the notes and turned over the notes to the Southern District of New York, which tried to use them to oppose a renewed bail application, claiming they showed Mr. Combs was trying to obstruct justice. Judge Subramanian, you granted a defense application to order the prosecutors on the case team to destroy their copies of the privileged notes. Judge Subramanian, for that reason, you need to go below, do a downward departure and go below the guideline range. Prosecutors violated Combs' free speech rights. The prosecutors continued their spying and next argued that Puffy's other writings and communications from NDC supposedly involved obstruction, even though these materials were clearly protected by the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. Some reflected his participation in his defense efforts to obtain material that could be used to challenge the credibility of the government's witnesses. Other writings describe Puffy's view that the prosecution is racist and his desire to get that message out to counter all the negative media about the case. The Southern District of New York even went so far as to claim Mr. Combs' request that his children post a happy birthday message to him on Instagram was an effort to obstruct justice, because Mr. Combs hoped it would present him in a more positive light to the public and undo some of the taint that the jury pool caused by all the negative publicity ginned up by the government and civil plaintiffs' attorney. Judge Subramanian, for these reasons, you need to do a downward departure and go below the guideline range. Prosecutors abused a filter team to access privileged material. The government's invasion of the attorney-client privilege and the defense camp has not been limited to the seizure of Puffy's notes. Throughout the case, the Southern District of New York has misused a purported filter team, which was supposed to ensure that the prosecutors handling the case were not exposed to privileged materials on the numerous electronic devices and internet accounts. Internet accounts that the government has seized and searched. Following the execution of the March 2024 warrants, defense counsel provided the prosecutors with the names of attorneys who had represented Mr. Combs and his businesses so that potentially privileged information could be segregated from the case prosecutors. Judge Subramanian it goes on and on. This goes on and on with the prosecutorial misconduct. I just wanted to highlight this. Puffy beat the case. I just read to y'all all the cheating that the Southern District of New York did, and they still lost. Judge Subramanian cut him loose. Cut my brother loose. The Southern District of New York has been exposed for being prejudicial. The Southern District of New York has been exposed for prosecutorial misconduct. The Southern District of New York has been exposed for cheating. The Southern District of New York has been exposed for violating the constitutional rights and not giving defendants a right to a fair trial. And for this reason, you need to go below the guideline range and get Puffy up out of there. No reason for you to do an upward departure. None at all. The prosecution cheated and still lost. The prosecution cheated and still lost. 12 New Yorkers, a jury of his peers, freed that man. A jury of his peers freed that man. Judge Subramanian, do the right thing, man. Do the right thing. Puffy's foundational Black American. I'm foundational Black American. That's my brother. Do the right thing. Too many niggas been done wrong by the Bureau of Prisons. Too many niggas been done wrong by the Southern District of New York. Too many niggas been done wrong by the Department of Justice. Wrongfully convicted. Cheated. Lied on. Convicted. And sent to prison for long sentences because they didn't have the money to fight back. Puffy exposed y'all. Judge Subramanian, do the right thing and free that man. Do the right thing and free that man. That man got a 4-year-old daughter. That man got a 4-year-old daughter, Judge Subramanian. He got a 4-year-old daughter. Let that man go and be with his daughter. He beat the Southern District of New York head up, straight up, straight up. And didn't call not one witness. He used all of y'all's witnesses. Do the right thing, Judge Subramanian. Downward departure. Downward departure. Below the guideline range. Downward departure. He's sitting in MDC Brooklyn right now in inhumane conditions. And he should be at home. And you let them people, somebody bullying you, Judge Subramanian, somebody bullying you. That girl got up and testified and perjured herself in your face, in your court, and you didn't do nothing to her. Brianna Bogelin violated her immunity agreement, perjured herself on the stand. Where is her charge? Why hasn't she been charged with perjury? Let me ask y'all a question before I get up out of here. Can I ask y'all a question? If I can ask y'all a question, put a 3 in the live chat. If I can ask y'all a question, put a 3 in the live chat. Put a 3 in there. I just want to ask a question. I want to ask one question and I'm going to let y'all go. And I want y'all to be honest. Judge Subramanian, look at me. You younger than me. You younger than me. Integrity never went out of style, Judge Subramanian. Integrity never went out of style. Here's my question. And I want y'all to be honest. Who was the first vlogger, TikToker, Instagrammer, YouTuber, social media, or mainstream media to report this case unbiasedly, and who was pro-Puff? Put it in the live chat. Who was the first one? Who was the first one? Talk to me. Tell me now. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Hollywood T. T Lounge, I see you, T. Put it in the live chat so they know. I was the Lone Ranger down here. I was the Lone Ranger. I used to come down there, go in that courtroom. People used to look at me like I stink. Yeah, yeah. You for Puff, yeah, you for Puff. I changed the narrative. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Judge Subramanian, integrity never went out of style. You give that man his life back. You give my brother his life back. You give my brother his life back. You be a man. Don't let nobody bully you like they've been bullying you. Integrity never went out of style. You need to do a downward departure below the guideline range. That man done been through enough. If you want to write the judge, get his address. Let me see. I got his address. If you want to write a letter to the judge, his name is Honorable Arun, A-R-U-N is his first name. Last name, Subramanian, Subramanian, United States District Judge, Southern District of New York, 500 Pearl Street, New York, New York, 10007. Send him a letter and tell him to let Puffy up out of there so that man can get back to his life. He done been through enough. He done suffered enough. It's over. It's over. He was acquitted of RICO. He was acquitted of SEX trafficking by a jury of his peers of all different nationalities. Let that man get back to his life, Judge Subramanian. Let's move on. Don't you do no upward departure. Don't you do no upward departure. If you do an upward departure that ain't right and exact to me, we will be filing paperwork in Washington, D.C. with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, asking her to take a look at this thing. Do the right thing, man. Do the right thing. Let that man go home. It's over. It's done. It's done. It's over. It's done. Let that man go home to his daughter. He got a 4-year-old daughter. Let him go home. Puffy's plea deal. Y'all want to know what Puffy's plea deal was? What was Puffy's plea deal before trial? What did the prosecutors go to Puffy and offer him as a plea deal? What was his plea deal? Put it in the live chat. Vicky Slaughter, I see you, Vicky. $27.20. What was his plea deal, y'all? 27, 27, 27, 5. Robinette, I see you. 15, 15 joints. 5. 15, Eb Sideberry, I see you. 15, 27. Keith Banks, 15. The prosecutors went at Puffy with a plea deal of 30 years. They offered him 30 years. They offered him 30. And I got that from a reliable source, T. They offered him 30 years. So if he would have lost that trial, they was gonna sentence him to death. And he beat him. They offered him 30 bullets, 30 calendars. Puffy said, man, listen, might as well crank up the jury. Might as well crank up the jury. Crank it up. I ain't taking no 30 years. Somebody saying that Puffy's daughter's 2 years old. I apologize, I don't know. Offered that man 30 years. And put all them people on the stand. Lovely Peaches, I see you. What's going on, Lovely Peaches? And put witnesses on the stand that got on that stand and lied on that man. 30 bullets, man. They offered him 30 bullets. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm finna get out of here. It's 8 o'clock. Going back, catch the train. I want to thank everybody for showing love and support. Send me some emails. If you want to join my private email list, send me an email to the podcastwithsoul@gmail.com. I'll add you to my private email list where I send out positive quotes and positive thoughts. And email me of what case y'all want me to do next. If you have a particular case you want me to cover, send me the case. It'd be good if you could send me the paperwork too. That's right, Lovely Peaches, free Diddy. And let's keep it going. Free Puff. Judge Subramanian, down with departure. Down with departure. Below the guideline range. Sean G. Peace.